the ADs and the cinematographer, you know, we had a very limited amount of time. It was a very small film. So there was a constant sort of rush. But, you know, me and Brian kind of stuck together as the actors, and Owen Kelly and Ophelia Lovabond. So we kind of just ignored the fray. And yeah, sometimes, you know, we would just kind of stick around and would constantly be going. But Brian really was the patriarch of the set and was, you know, just the best actor to work with. I mean, the first day I was really, really, really nervous. And it was a long sequence where we had to do all these tools and all this blocking, and we did the first take, and it was like, you know, out-of-body experience where you're like, oh boy, I'm like acting again already, okay. And he came up to me and he put his arm on me, he's like, you're doing good, bud, you're doing good. And I was like, and he just totally calmed me down, and I was like, all right, let's go.
There is always something weird about that first take that's, I always feel like in making a movie, it's like the most anticlimactic moment. It's like so much has got you to this place, and then the take happens, and then there's this cut, and you're like, all right, let's do it again. And then then it's just like, here we go.
I don't think it matters who you are. The first day, and really the first like hour of the first day is always kind of like just...
Yeah, I feel like there's an expectation like something magic's gonna happen, but it's just like, oh no, we're doing this again. And then you kind of find your groove.
Yeah.
But what was it like, so then, you know, you're in this one room for a lot of the movie, and one of your scene partners is dead.
Yeah, well, I kind of just remembered the feeling of kind of the morgue, and I used that, but the actress Owen Kelly, she was there.
Because I assume it was not a silicone body, it was just her all the time.
Yeah, I mean, 90% of it is her, obviously not when her, like, you know, the organs are laid out, but she was really dedicated to her role in the sense that, like, she was on a big marble slab, and imagine the set is like a really janky, dark studio with no heating, and it's this big marble slab that she's laying on all day. So it was cold. So they would try to keep her warm, and she would never talk to me or Brian. I think because she was in character, maybe she just didn't like us, I don't know. And she would just be totally in the zone, and to the point where we almost like forgot that she was Owen, like had a personality. You know, it was like she really wanted to just be perceived in that way.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a bizarre, like, that's a one-time only thing for her most likely, and for you, people to be in scenes with somebody who's there doing that.
And it's really, I mean, it's one thing to just be like, okay, I'm gonna just chill. But it's another when you have to be chill for hours and hours and hours while people are like playing with your arms and stuff and like examining around you. And there was one day where they had put her in this kind of makeup kit where it was almost like they redid her chest and stuff, and then they weren't going to shoot with her for another 4 or 5 hours, and like the claustrophobia that you feel is really, really intense when you're on a rig like that, and it was just, it's rough, and she's a total badass.
I would also imagine that she would be laying there being like, okay, you guys are in the midst of something really intense, and like, she can't move or she'd fuck it up. And that's got to be it's just a weird thing to do. It's very intense. I think that would be really hard. I think it would be
well, she was talking about how she was doing meditation and kind of just zenning out.
Smart cat.
She probably is really good at meditating now. She actually transcended to this monastery now.
Yeah. And so with a horror movie, I think a lot of times, a lot of the tone of the movie is in post. I mean, in this movie, you know, it's a lot of dialogue and a lot of performance, but at the same time, when was the first time you saw it? Did you see it in post, or did you see it for the first time when it was done?
Andre invited me to just a little screening at the editing office and showed it to me, and I thought it was cool. And this was actually one of the first movies that I think the first movie I ever done where I was like, okay, let me kind of switch up my own process a little bit. So as we would shoot every day, they would give me the code so I could go back and just look at the footage. Because so much of it was technical, and I just wanted to see the tools and just everything like that. And I was excited to kind of work in a different way. And so this was so I'd seen all the footage, but to see the way that Andre cut it together, I really found he's a very, very talented dude, and he's very meticulous. I remember one day I was looking down at him, sitting in the hallway, and he had one of these weird European paper scripts, which is like longer than a normal script. It's like this weird European paper thing. And he had what looked like Madman's chicken scratch across the entire thing. And I said, Andre, what is that? And he goes, this is my notes. And I was like, well, you want to go do something this weekend? You want to go see a movie? And he's like, no, we are shooting it. It's too important. And I was like, well, okay. And he goes, Emile, when this movie comes out, it is my last name forever. And I was like, he's very committed to this movie. It was cool.
Yeah, I mean, he did a great job. All the sound design is really terrific, and I feel like there's a tone that comes to life, I think, in horror movies that there's always that leap from when you finish the movie to when you start to see it, and you're like, oh, shit, like with the music or with the thing where all of a sudden something takes on a whole new vibe.
Do you find that you think it's scary, though, being like the maker of the haunted house?
No, I find it like just
You're
hard.
like, you chumps are scared?
I don't know, I just find the whole thing traumatic and sort of miserable the whole time. But then at the end I feel like, oh, that worked out. But no, I'm too much in the... It's like, to me, it's like the fact that you watched it is amazing to me. Like, to me, watching something feels like hearing your voice on tape. Like, it just makes me really uncomfortable. But I think watching a movie, like a horror movie, with an audience is really satisfying because any of those moments that you weren't quite sure
You can
about...
just see the person next to you being like...
And there's a huge satisfaction that comes with that because
Yeah.
it's a visceral experience that you don't get in a lot of other genres, which is
Yeah,
something that's really
yeah,
fun.
it's sort of like horror and comedy, where they're like shrieking or they're laughing raucously next to you.
Yeah, and it's a fun thing to feel the audience get provoked by something that you...
And by the way, thank you guys for coming out tonight. I really, really appreciate it. Some of my absolute favorite people in the world are in this room right now.
It's a great place to see a movie. They did such a wonderful job here.
The screen actually is really good here, and the
Yeah.
sound is amazing. I was like, oh, they should do more movies.
They should. It's a cool place. They should keep doing it. Well, speaking of that, what do we have to look forward to from you next?
I'm actually getting ready in January. I'm going to work on a movie called An Evening with Beverly Luff Lynn, which is Jim Hoskins' new movie. Who did The Greasy Strangler that was out. And I'm really excited about that. It's a very, very weird...
That should be a wild ride.
Yeah, it's a very weird script, but it's very funny, though. And and then I have a movie that I worked on with J.K. Simmons that's called All Nighter, which is sort of a buddy comedy that's coming out in March, which is pretty funny.
And what about, I know that, so for everyone that came outside, what would you say would be, having seen the movie a few times now and kind of getting to towards the end of promoting and everything, from your perspective, what would be the thing you want people to take away from this movie? Like, what would you want them to tell their friends about it?
Well, I think ultimately, you just want them to say that it's really scary. I think it's simple in that sense. I think there's sort of a pass-fail grade with scary movies. It either scares you or it doesn't. And hopefully, you can try to make a film with like a little bit more character stuff, like this, like a cachet horror movie, but there's a lot of cachet horror movies that are kind of boring, and then you're like, give me like the schlock that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
So I think that, if you can ride both, that's the best.
I think this movie rides a great line. It comes out Wednesday in New York, and it will be available this week on VOD as well. So tell your friends to go during Christmas. Great time to watch a movie about autopsies. But get out there and promote these movies because IFC does a great job with it, and we appreciate you coming out and doing this. And these are the kind of movies that live on your support, and it means a lot to everybody out here. So thank you so much for coming, and thank you for talking to us.
Thank you guys. Thank you each and every one of you.
We're live here at the Ace Hotel. So we're live here at the Ace Hotel. Are you gonna go take a picture of the homie or?